Hey guys, this is Oates here. I'm the developer working on FurryVNE. The 2021 March release of our application includes a new clothing component. Let's take a look at what you can accomplish using this component. So in this case, you're looking at our new character, Viola. You can study her to get a better understanding of how to set up clothes of your own. Here we have multiple different objects, and not all of them are necessarily clothes, but some of them are actually considered to be part of the body essentially. So we have a head frill that you can see here, and it is using this new system. So this is actually a completely static mesh in the authoring tool, but once imported into FurryVNE and once configured, it will deform along with the body. Here we can see that when changing the head, we're actually deforming the head frill as well. And this is despite the imported model actually being completely static. There are also some more things going on with this head frill. So we can see that it is actually blending with the body very nicely, and this is due to a couple of new systems that we have implemented. So one of them is normal blending, and you can see here what a difference normal blending does. We also have something we call pixel offset. Here we can see the difference. Here's another part of the body, the chic frills. Likewise, it's also using normal blending and pixel offset. We think this will be very useful for adding more custom parts to the body. You can also use pixel offset on regular parts, as you can see here. Normal blending, however, is not currently supported. The clothing in this case has also been bound to the body, as we can see that if we go into pose mode and start changing things, the clothing is actually moving along with it. Let's go ahead and see how we can set all of this up ourselves. So I'm just going to go ahead here and delete everything. I'll leave some parts left on her for obvious reasons. So the first thing you need to do when adding new clothes to your character is create a new garment. Once you've done that, you can go into the shapes and go into bind pose. In here, you can configure what pose you want your character to be in for the clothing you have in mind. Depending on what kind of clothing you're creating for your character, this step is really important. In this case, we're not really going to do anything because our clothes will fit this pose. Let's go ahead and export our character. Now we can import it into Blender. Now we could create clothes for our character. Note that this is not a tutorial about how to create clothes, but rather how to set them up inside of our application. So here's a couple of clothes that Dogson has prepared for the character. To use this clothing inside of FurryVNE, we need to export it in a certain way. And for that, a special add-on is required. We will link this add-on inside the description. Once you have downloaded the add-on, you can install it through Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, Install, and then browse to the add-on. Make sure that it is checked in the interface. You should also save preferences so that it will be enabled the next time you open Blender. With the add-on installed, you can go into Object Data Properties and then click Export Cloth under the FurryVNE submenu. In this case, since we're exporting the blouse, I'm just going to rename it Blouse. Now we can go back into FurryVNE again. Go into Import, Cloth, and select the object that you exported. In the model property, reference the model you imported. Let's do the same thing for the pants. We might also go ahead and just rename these objects. If we go into pose mode now we will see that the clothing actually doesn't follow the body yet, and that is because they haven't been bound to the body. To bind something to the body, you need to go into the garment object, go into shapes, and then click bases. Here you can just click bind. If we go into pose mode now, we'll see that the blouse actually follows the body. Let's do the same thing for the pants. There's a couple of properties that you can change during the binding phase, but for these objects, these default settings are good enough. You can also have different shapes along with the cloth. So here we have a blouse tail adapt shape, and it has also been imported into the application that we can see here. However, it also needs to be bound. So let's go ahead and bind it. If we go into pose mode now, we can see that if we go into the character, garments, and then choose blouse, we can actually select this shape. This is stored along with the pose. So if we duplicate this one and then change this other one, we can see that they are using different. Since each shape is individually bound, it means you literally can have any kind of pose for it and any kind of shape for it, and yet it will still work. Like parts, garments also has a texture builder, so you can set them up in any way you like, the way you have come to expect of our application. Let's go ahead and add the head frill to the head. Like with the clothing, export the cloth using the menu. Create a new garment, import the cloth, reference it, again, we need to bind it in order for it to actually be attached to the body. However, this time we're going to change the settings a bit. If just binding using the default mode, things will not look so great. Here we can see that there are some artifacts happening. To fix this, we are going to change the binding mode from surface to bones. So what this means is that instead of being bound to different surface points on the body mesh, we're binding directly to the bones. For things sitting tight on the body, like this blouse or this pants, it's okay to use surface, but for things that don't really belong to any part of the surface, it's usually better to use the bones mode. Click bind and try again. We can see that it already looks a lot better and it doesn't have the same kind of problems. However, we can get this even better by using some smoothing. So I'm going to check smoothing here, but before smoothing is actually used, I need to create a smoothing mask. So let's go into the smoothing mask, click edit mask, and in this case I'm just going to smooth the vertices that are a bit further away from the body. Click apply. Now that we have a smoothing mask, we can reference it. Also, we should set a number for how many times to smooth the mesh. Now it's even smoother than before. Let's also go ahead and add a normal blending and a pixel offset. We can also go ahead and add a layer to color it quickly. Go to layers and add transfer. This will transfer the color from the body to the garment, or in this case, the head frill body part. We should also check in the garment that it's part of the body. That ensures that if switching outfits, this head frill will still stay. There's a lot more to learn and explore about these systems, such as an automatic system for disabling fur where there is clothing. However, I won't go into details about these things today because I want to keep this tutorial short. That concludes this tutorial. I hope you learned something today and I hope you'll have use out of these new systems.